Carolina. And finally, for all of you out there that are live tweeting, I can see you right now. You can follow him at Ted Abernathy at your convenience. Please welcome Ted Abernathy.
I was worried about talking about economics after lunch until y'all started singing Tom Dooley, and I feel better about it now. My wife actually likes that song. I haven't figured it out. She's from Maryland. We're still training her to be a Southerner after 30 years, so we're working on that. Thank you for inviting me here today. I think I got this invitation because some members of the club saw me do some work for the Charlotte Chamber, and so I'm glad to be here today. I was asked to talk a little bit about North Carolina's competitiveness, so we're going to talk about economics. So for those of you who need to tweet somebody else and don't want to talk about economics, this is the time. Charts and graphs for a little while. We'll try to make it swift and painless. I always ask group how the economy is, so can you give me a grade for the Charlotte economy? A, B, C, D, F. So how many A's? B's? C's? D's? Any F's? North Carolina economy, A's? B's? C's? D's? Any F's? U.S. economy, A's? B's? C's? D's? And F's. Okay. It always gets a little bit better as you keep going along. Let's talk about some facts for a few minutes. It's really hard to get economic facts today unless they get filtered somewhere along the way by somebody who's decided that hey, one fact means one thing. And so I'll give you a few and y'all can decide what they mean. I'm going to look at long-term things for North Carolina for a few minutes, because 1 year, one snapshot, and I'll show you a few snapshots in a few minutes, really doesn't mean a whole lot. Might give you a trend of recent, but it doesn't mean much. This is population growth, and I do a lot of work in the South. So these are southern states, 16 southern states that we work with. This is a change in population since 2000, and you can see North Carolina has been a fast-growing state during that period of time, one of the most. You're going to see Texas. Their bar is going to be higher than almost everybody's bar on almost every chart. We can have a long talk about Texas if you want over coffee afterwards, but you can see North Carolina, really strong population growth. This is employment growth for a 10-year period. Not quite as strong, but pretty good, almost 10% over that period of time. I think most people would have guessed that we were well behind a lot of people, but you can see we actually are one of the better performers in the South over the last decade. This is gross domestic product, however. And you can see this is equalized in gross domestic product from North Carolina. We're the little green bar there. Output hasn't been quite as much. We've been attracting a lot of people, retirees, people moving in. The impact of the input of the state has not grown near as fast as some of our surrounding states. But as you can see, this was pretty uneven. We've got states that actually lost GDP over that period of time. This is personal income. So while we grew a lot of people, we didn't put out much more, and the average income of our people didn't grow much at all. So part of that is that we attracted a lot of jobs that were at the lower end. The other part is that we lost a bunch of jobs that were in the middle. This is a manufacturing collapse that shows a lot of this on here. This is the country. The tan parts of the country are the places where the citizens lost their income during that period of time. So you can see through the South, which was heavily in manufacturing, and the upper Midwest, which is heavily in manufacturing, where the hits were taken. Family incomes dropped in those places. So there's North Carolina. And if you were able to look real close, you'd see that Charlotte's went up, Raleigh-Durham's went up, and most of the rest of the state did not. And so you have a lot of people that, we tell our friends when they're in Raleigh or down here that you're inside bubble in these urban areas. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you know, if you haven't been out in a rural county, and I don't mean Gaston, a rural county, if you haven't been out in a rural county lately, the world looks a little different out there. This is wages, by the way, real average wage change over that same 10-year period. You can see North Carolina's incomes and wages are both stagnant. But this is the loss of a lot of manufacturing jobs, also the loss of some white-collar jobs that paid pretty well during that period of time. So let's go to the country for a minute. This is growth in jobs in the country over the last decade. You can see the big loss of about 9 million jobs in the 2 years of the recession. And the growth last year was the best year for job growth in America since the 1990s. Some of you probably heard that. Over 3 million new jobs last year. And you can see the last few years have been fairly strong. We had about a decade running from the late 90s through about 2012, where job growth was very slow in America. And that was, and you didn't say this, but I work for both parties. I don't work for the parties, and I work for governors of both stripes. Don't really care about the politics. If you look at some of those bars and charts, you'll see lots of R's up, R's down, D's up, D's down, every sort of way. And this includes time for multiple presidents. And so really a slow time for growth in America. This is what happened by sector over the last year. We've had strong growth in the retail trade sector, not very good for wages. We've had strong growth in professional and technical services sector, good for wages. Those are mostly high-paying jobs. We also had high growth in leisure and hospitality, again, low-paying jobs. We'll look at that a little closer, but where the growth is coming is real important for our long-term economic health. Let's look at in North Carolina. You can see this is from January of 2014 to January of 2015. So this is the latest 12 months that's available right now. And you can see North Carolina's in the upper echelon of job creators in the South. Again, not there with Texas. Florida is actually leading the pack, but Florida had the most job losses during the recession. So they're making a comeback. But North Carolina is strongly in the top third. When you look at manufacturing job growth in that same period of time, North Carolina has made some comeback there. We lagged in numbers for a few years, where the rest of the manufacturing sector had started in some states. We were behind, but we've started seeing manufacturing jobs grow again in North Carolina. By the way, we're going to put one of these things that is sort of the bane of the economist is that you get these local folklores, and in this case a national folklore, that manufacturing has been leaving America. Everybody believes that, right? So the line that runs across is the percentage of GDP associated with manufacturing from 1960 till today in America. Manufacturing hadn't changed at all. The line that looks like a ski slope is jobs in manufacturing. So that the argument that we've lost manufacturing, our output has been about the same as part of our national product. We've lost manufacturing jobs. We've done so for a lot of reasons, technological changes being the main reason. This is growth in business and professional services. Those areas of quite, all the tie for jobs that many of you look like you have. Really strong in North Carolina over the last year. And this is growth in government jobs. And we're the little short negative bar. We actually have had less government jobs than we had a year ago, along with Louisiana, the only two states in negative territory. This is leisure and hospitality. Strong growth in that for us, and it's been strong growth as you see in some states. Some states like West Virginia and Oklahoma actually had negative growth. So people are taking their tourism dollar and moving it around a little bit. So first map I want you to spend a couple seconds on. This is what happened the last year that jobs are available by county in North Carolina. So this is jobs that are in your county. And that's the difference in employment. We're not talking about all the people who live in Charlotte, whether they're in Mecklenburg County, whether they're employed or not. This is the jobs within the county. The light green is a slow growth, but growth. The dark green is fast growth. Dark red, fast decline. Red, slow decline. You can see that North Carolina is patchwork over the last year. Lots of places still have job losses. So as a state, you saw our number, and it's easy to, 3.1 million in the country, say, yay, the country's gaining jobs. But you saw some states up and down, and yay, North Carolina's gaining jobs. But you can see here, it's a patchwork of where jobs are growing and where they aren't. You can see Mecklenburg County there is actually one of the dark green. You're one of the shining stars of job growth in the state. And that's very good for you, but not as much. This, if you go back 5 years, and look at what the job numbers go from 2005 till today, you can see that outside of some coastal counties, Raleigh-Durham, Fort Bragg, Mecklenburg County, and Asheville, the rest of the state still hasn't made up their jobs yet. So while we're growing, again, there's still a hole. Somebody, we were talking before that, how far, what was it called, the car analogy? We fell off the cliff, how far are we back up? Well, we're climbing up the sides, but for most of North Carolina, we've not got back to job creation. When we talk about competitiveness, we start with what are the factors that businesses look for. This is actually yesterday's new report that just came out. Corporate America put out a new report yesterday on what corporations were looking for. First time in 3 years that skilled labor wasn't number one. Actually dropped to number 5. Highway accessibility Cost, land and buildings. We're back to building again, and cost factors and whether you have the right products important. So the next time someone talks to you about a road, or talks to you about the cost of doing business, or talks to you about having available, ready to go, shovel-ready buildings and sites, are they important? Yes, they're important. If they talk to you about quality of life factors, low crime rates, number one, ratings of public schools, healthcare facilities. One of the things that we try to get people to understand, and let's see if we can do a little cartoon for you, is that these things are all quantifiable today. We can do filters for you on every one of these factors for every community in America from our computer in about an hour for any place. And you get filtered. You don't get to tell people you are what you aren't. When they ask you what your crime rates are, they're published. So if you want low crime rates, you got to have low crime rates. If you want high school test scores in school, you got to have them. If you want available land at a certain price, that's what, those things are all measurable. You don't get to play this little game anymore. I've been in the business for 35 years. I remember when we got to sell, and we could torture the data any way we want, make it look good. Not the way it works anymore. We can look at tax rankings. These are the southern states again. If you're green on this bar, it means you're in the best 15 states. If you're red, it means you're in the worst 15 states, ranking-wise, and the tans are in the middle. So when you look at corporate taxes, everybody thinks Texas has low taxes, right? How many people think that Texas has low taxes, right? The Texas is down there at the bottom. They're in the worst 15 states for corporate tax, they're in the worst 15 states for sales tax, and they're in the worst 15 states for property tax, but they don't have any income tax. So they're good at that. But if you start looking at tax rates, how many accountants in the room? There's got to be some, right? I mean, you got to run the accounting numbers to see what it does. Tax rates alone are not the issue. So you can look at the bar and see that the South has some red, some green, a lot in the middle. Some of you probably also think that, what's another good one? That Tennessee is low. Well, Tennessee's low in a couple, and in the bottom in some others. When you look at regulatory policies, and by the way, just so you know, this is the Tax Foundation. They're the conservatives who do this. That's their numbers. So if all of a sudden you say, wait, that's that liberal. No, that's the conservative numbers. Also, look at regulatory policy. Some people think that when Mississippi, you can do anything, right? No, Mississippi is one of the worst regulatory states. It's ranked 45th for regulatory policy, 41st for economic freedom, and 50th for legal environment. This is all over the place, and my point is, this is all public data. Everybody knows it. Every company looking to come to Charlotte, to come to Gaston County, to come to North Carolina knows this data. In the context of all that, we've got a bunch of conundrums. Conundrums are those things we wish we knew how to do about, but we don't know what to do about. One of them is urbanization, and y'all are seeing that played out in the North Carolina legislature. If you want, it's also being played out in the Tennessee legislature, in the Missouri legislature, in the Texas legislature. Everybody's fighting, but they don't know what to do about urbanization. This is North Carolina counties. The top 25 counties, biggest counties, top quartile, biggest 25 counties since 2000 have grown by almost 30%. The two middle groups have grown by about 10%, and the smallest counties are growing the smallest. We are, as a world, concentrating in urban centers. This data is the same data you would find in Europe, it's the same data you would find in Brazil, it's the same data you would find in China. We are moving to the cities in a big way. And what that does, when you saw the charts before, is we got 100 counties in North Carolina, and 138 in Georgia, and 100, we got a lot of places, and we're trying to spread it out, and it's very hard. This is population growth, by the way, over the last 5 years, and there are very few counties that aren't growing. This idea that everybody's leaving everywhere isn't true. These are, most of the state actually has seen growth. Some of it pretty small, and some of it crazy growth, like Wake and Mecklenburg. But it's not that everybody's shrinking, it's that some of you are growing faster than others. This is the bottom line, is that half of the U.S. population live in these 146 counties. There are over 3,000 counties in America, and half live in 146. And we're urbanizing faster. The rate of urbanization is growing. It's not shrinking. So more and more places will get denser and denser. We also have an issue with talent. And we can talk about that in terms of the fact we don't have a lot of it, but in fact the problem is the bar keeps rising. Now, if you look at test results. I told you people look at this. So here's what the South looks like, highs, lows, middles. North Carolina, pretty much middle of the road in tests. 28, 36, 17, and 22 based on different factors of state. So we're in the middle of the road, we're not the worst, and some places in the South are not very good at this. But this is easily measurable again. When you look at proficiency, and I just showed you what the rankings were, but the fact is that our proficiency for 8th grade science, we're very proud of the fact we're in the top group, except we only have 26% proficiency. Is that passing grade? Anybody think that passes? This is math, it's 37, yay. So everybody stand up for a minute. Everybody, all of them. So here's the question. Question is, what percent of jobs in America projected out to the year 2022, what percent of jobs will you need a bachelor's degree to qualify for? Now, if you think it's more than 50%, sit down. If you think it's more than 40%, sit down. More than 30%, sit down. More than 25%, sit down. The number's 23. 23% of the job expectations for the year 2022 will require a BA. Now, will they require, a bunch of them have high school, but is that the high school we currently have? We just did a project in Missouri with the Gallup organization. They did 1,050 one-on-one CEO interviews that were 30 minutes in length with all the big companies in Missouri. One of the questions was, do you believe that high schools are preparing kids for the workforce? The magic number was 15% believe that. 1-5. Missouri's pretty proud of their education system. And 15% of corporate CEOs said they were getting kids out of high school ready to work. Interesting stuff. We also have this real problem with technology. How many of you have a smartphone in the room? How many of you have a smartphone that's more than 2 years old? Look around the room. You are out of touch. Get your new phone. iPhone 6, baby. Get an iPhone 6. If it makes you feel better, I have one, by the way, I'm gonna make you feel better. I have one that's 2 years old. It's an iPhone 4, and I won't get rid of it because I got an unlimited data plan that nobody will replicate for me, so I'm still holding out to, just like you. That's what manufacturing looks like in the future. That's what waitressing looks like in the future. That's actually Sony headquarters. That's what a cab driver looks like in the future. There's nobody in the car. That's what a doctor looks like in rural everywhere. That's what a rotary speaker looks like coming out. That's me, I'm on a boat, I'm not in this country. We're at the very beginning of technological shifts, the Internet of Everything, where in 20 years, everything you own will be connected to every other thing you own. And we're going to be, who's in the medical field here? Not only are you going to have implanted sensors in me, it's going to send the information to my wife, not me. I can just see this coming. It's coming, guys. If you ever don't believe this is true, sit down at dinner one night with a group of friends and think back just 10 years and what you didn't have 10 years ago and what you've got today. Demographics are catching up. As a futurist, this is my favorite subject because we actually know how old you'll be a year from now. And America has changed dramatically. We are a much different country in terms of race. By the way, this is a chart showing the counties all across America where you have a disproportionately high representation of a different racial group. Look at the South, that's African Americans. Now look at the Midwest and the Northeast. By the way, there's a tiny little red dot for St. Louis and Ferguson up there. It's the only place in the state. They don't understand race relations. That's why it's such a surprise to them. In the South, we're not good at it, but we get it mostly. We've been dealing with it for a very long time. Oh, and by the way, you're just looking at the club and the speakers. We got a problem with aging. Might not be in this club, but when you start looking at how many of our seniors actually have enough money to sustain their quality of life, the numbers are appalling. Some are in single digits. But overall, I mean, less than half the people in America that are in their 50s have any savings. So what's that going to do when all of a sudden we're just, we're cruising along, spending everything we've got, and then we turn 65 and don't have a job? What's going to happen to sales? What's going to happen in consumption? Our kids are all spending time on the sharing economy. They don't want to buy any of this stuff. They're going to rent it. They are not going to buy it. The nature of work has shifted dramatically too. How many people in the room either work for themselves or work as some sort of gig or contingent worker, like me? So the guess right now in America is it's somewhere between 30 and 35, and it'll be over 50% within the next 20 years of people who won't work for somebody else. They'll just work for themselves, working for all you people. And jobs in general have shifted. This is what's happened in healthcare over the last few years. The smallest increases in the world, in the last 30, 40 years, because we're tightening our belts. How many people think there'll be more doctors per person in the future? More lawyers? More accountants? More lawyers, you think? I'll take that bet. We don't even like them. We don't need them either. We do lawyer jokes all day up here. I can do economist jokes and lawyer jokes. My best friends are all lawyers. I mean, we're changing, right? The nature of work is changing. This is a bubble chart of what's happened to jobs in the United States since the end of the recession. The blue are the growth, and so the horizontal axis is the number of jobs. The vertical axis is the pay scale. So up there in the top corner blue, you see high-paid jobs that are growing fast, and that's business, professional, scientific services. Over on the left, for the gentleman over here, I didn't see who said it, federal, state, and local government dropping, and also information services. But down there in the corner, in the right, is where all the jobs are. Administration, sales, food prep. Your other economic thing to take away from today is in America we have 150 million jobs. A third of them, 49 million, are in those three categories. And those three categories have an average wage of $11 an hour. And they're the fastest growing. So what do we see in the near future if you're trying to predict? Slow to moderate growth. Everybody is somewhere between 2.3 and 3.2% for the next few years for America. A tangent could happen, but this is it. Enjoy the good times. Rapid technological change in every industry. Globalization continues. We didn't talk about it much today, but we can. And y'all should have several things on that. Urbanization is here to stay. We're not going to spread things back out to rural America. It's not the nature of what's happening. And you're going to have lots of winners and losers because the competition's high. We're aging and we're diversifying. Government's budgets are not going to grow, which means that you're not going to get your roads fixed. Your teachers are not going to get raises. You're not going to have more military. And that's what austere budgets mean. So figure that out sometime. Put a mark on what government is, what it pays for, and decide how much of what. Means that someday soon we're going to change Social Security. Someday soon you're going to pay for more of your Medicare and Medicaid. I mean, that's what that means. You can decide if you like it or not, but that's what it means. By the way, personal budgets are also tight. My guess is, maybe not in this room, but for most of Charlotte-Mecklenburg, everybody spends everything. Wage growth has been pretty slow. That means that your personal budgets are getting tough. Makes it harder to pay for college. Makes it harder to pay your medical bills. Makes it harder to spend more. And that's going to be the future. Our military is transitioning. That's going to impact some of our military bases all across America, including in North Carolina. They'll need a lot more of those electronic toys, not quite as many men. That's the thinking today. Businesses reordering around a sharing economy, temporary rental as opposed to purchase. And finally, there will be more intense competition for everything. Charlotte will be competing with Charleston, will be competing with Tel Aviv. And you will have to be armed to compete. And you can decide locally what you need to be able to compete. You saw what it takes to do that. But this is not going to get easier, it's going to get more fierce. And as it does, we're going to have winners and losers. And in our state right now, we have some pretty good, we're pretty well positioned. Can we keep that up? Can our metro areas continue to grow? Can we figure out what we need to do with an urban-rural divide? I'm from Dallas, North Carolina. They need help. I wish I had a nice, easy answer. My mother's still alive, still there, and still tells me I should come and help, but, you know, there's not any easy answers to that. But you can't just forget whole places, right? It's not what we do as a society. My favorite philosopher is Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's best quote ever was, "Everybody has a plan till they get hit in the mouth." The hit was change, and if we don't do something about it, we've got trouble. Do something. So what? Thank you very much.